Disappointed! It's hard to believe that it has been 20 years since the release of The Phantom Menace, and I have been a longtime Star Wars fan, so I have a pretty interesting relationship with this movie because I saw it when I was 19 years old. But anyways, I thought I would go over my journey with this film and where I came from, the build up to the excitement of my feelings of it initially, and how I feel 20 years later in this video. Anyways, let's go ahead and start from the beginning. I've been a lifelong Star Wars fan. There's not been a day that I won't remember Star Wars in my life. I was 3 years old and went and saw Return of the Jedi in the theater when I was a 3-year-old and loved every minute of it, even though I had to drag my brother out of the theater to go use the bathroom because I had a 3-year-old's bladder at the time and missed the death of Yoda. Spoilers, by the way. But yeah, I missed that in the theater, so I only ever got to see it in home video, that particular scene, and my brother still rides me to this day about that. But anyways, I actually, just had that. I was always loved those films. I remember a time when my brother had some issues with seizures, and he would go, we had a procedure that he had to have the next day. I don't remember if it was a test or it was an actual surgical procedure at this point, but I fondly remember the night before because we had to keep him awake for 24 hours, and doing that, the overnight we decided to go and rent Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and watch all three back to back overnight so we would stay awake, and I stayed in it with him because, hey, I wanted to see Star Wars, obviously. But anyways, yeah, so I have a pretty loving relationship with the original trilogy. I love all three of those films, with Empire probably being my favorite in the entire series, honestly. But anyways, needless to say, I love Star Wars, and when I heard that there was going to be another trilogy made of prequels, I was very excited. I got in on the train. I remember hearing this somewhere around 94, 95. Lucas was starting to talk about it pretty openly at that point. And then, so I was getting really hyped up. And this was the days before the internet. So I was going out and buying magazines. And I didn't care if there was only like a paragraph excerpt out of it. I had to have that magazine because it had something about the Star Wars, new Star Wars movie coming out in it. And that was my big thing. So I have still have tons of Star Wars Insider magazines here somewhere in the house that I've collected from back then. Just trying to keep up with every little bit of information. That was how I was, and how I still kind of am to this day. I still scour the internet looking for stuff about new Star Wars every day, just about. But I had that, but in the interim, I did go and remember seeing the special edition in theaters. My brother took me out of school a few days early to go see the special editions in theaters. And was a few hours early, actually, I should say. Yeah. And we went and saw actually, the original Star Wars is the only one we actually got to see. So it's the only one I actually got to see in the theaters. But I had a great time. And even though looking at it in adult lenses, there's some problems with those special editions I have now. I kind of miss my old way of seeing those films as they originally were when I was a kid. That version of the movies. But that's a whole nother video for a whole nother topic. But I do remember, even though when I graduated from high school, that was in 97, we went to college. My brother and I were in college together at the same time. And we went out after our classes were done and ran straight up to Virginia, because that's where you went for everything, was Virginia, and got these special editions on VHS. He bought the full screen, I bought the widescreen. I have to have widescreen because that's the kind of person I am to this day. So I have a lot of excitement building up. I had to buy the movies. I love them. I still love them to this day. I still watch Star Wars at least a few times a year at least. Unfortunately, I'm such a film fan that I don't spend every day watching something Star Wars, but I still love the films. I still invest a lot of time and thought into them. So that brings us to May the 19th, 1999, the opening of The Phantom Menace. I did not do a midnight showing. I actually went during the day. I think I was working overnight at that point anyway, so I wasn't able to really make it to a midnight showing. I would think I was doing stock work at the time. But anyways, I actually went during the middle of the day. I think I was off that day and the next day, so I was able to go in the middle of the day. And I remember going to the theater and walking out and feeling like I had gotten punched in the guts. I was not a very happy fan with that. I did not understand what were midichlorians. Why were they trying to make a science out of something as mystical as Star Wars? What was the deal with the Jar Jar Binks, this character who was fumbling around, stepping in poo, and just making fart jokes? Why did the CGI look so bad? Why did it look so out of place with the original trilogy, in my opinion? I just did not understand what was going on here. I just did not like it. And this is my 19-year-old cynical self, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the next movie to come out was Attack of the Clones. And that movie just made things even worse because I was full-time online at the time. So at that point, I was just bitter and angry and just really getting into that internet personality, where negativity is breeded and everything else. So that was what I was doing in my early to mid 20s. I was on message boards and typing up. I was railing against these films and I just did not like them. And I just, the bad acting, bad CGI. George Lucas has lost it. I'm so sick of these movies. Why can't it be like the original trilogy? I was one of those fans. And looking back at it now, I'm glad I'm no longer like that. I guess that came with age and a child. I don't know, but I'm just really glad that I've kind of grown out of that stage. I can tell probably a lot of the internet has not grown out of that stage. Even people my age are still acting this way, unfortunately. Well, a few years went by, went on, found other things I enjoyed, calmed down a little bit, and saw Revenge of the Sith. And you know what? I actually kind of liked Revenge of the Sith. I don't know if it was the finality of the movie or what. There was all the same problems that were there with the prequels: clunky acting, bad dialogue, bad CGI. Just everything was there that I didn't like about the originals. But something about that movie just connected with me for whatever reason. I don't know if there was a certain camaraderie that felt connected there, but I really enjoyed that movie a lot more than I did the other two in the series for whatever reason. And that was kind of a healing process for me. I didn't hate on those films quite as bad anymore. And then along came 2008's The Clone Wars series. And that series really reignited my love for the for Star Wars in general, really. And it really gave me kind of a fresh perspective on the prequels a little bit, too. Because I really did empathize more with Anakin as a character. But thanks to those movies, it really did open him up a little bit more. It made the whole what was going on make more sense and everything like that. I just enjoyed it. And anybody can say, a film should stand on its own legs and not have to have all this extra material to make it better. And I can kind of understand that, but at the same time, as a fan, that kind of stuff is nice to have, and it's nice to, get more out of it. If the fan gets more out of it by reading a comic or watching an extra show or something like that, that's great. That's what happened with me, and you know what? That's great in my opinion. So here we are 20 years later now. Honestly, looking back at it after I watched it yesterday, I think a lot of my complaints were misplaced. Jar Jar Binks, midichlorians, bad CGI, that's really not the faults of that movie. Honest to goodness, those are just nitpicks, and nitpicks aren't really what brings a movie down, in my opinion. Honestly, what brings that movie down for me more than anything is that it's just a string of events that just kind of don't feel like they flow naturally. That's probably my biggest complaint about the movie, and that's why it doesn't work for me 20 years later. There's a really great story trying to be told in there. There's some great performances. Liam Neeson's actually really great. I'm looking back at that movie yesterday. Liam Neeson was fantastic in that movie. There's so much subtlety to what he is doing. He's showing that there's a way different than the Jedi way, that he does things kind of his way, and he does that so well. It was great. You could tell from a seasoned actor like Liam Neeson, that's great. Another big thing that I really loved is Ian McDiarmid's really subtle performance in this movie too. He's so great going back and forth. He was so good in this. Thinking back at it, I had an ex-girlfriend that said, "Hey, I never realized that Palpatine was the Emperor." Like when we watched episode 3 together. Yeah, I mean, that was him. I knew that because I was such a fan and really dug into it. But she was someone that, enjoyed Star Wars, but didn't really dig this deep as I did. So she never got that. But I was like, yeah, ain't he great? Wasn't he great just playing both sides like that and everything? Yeah, he's really great. Honestly, also another big, really positive, which is kind of a negative for some people, but for me, it's very positive, is the pod race sequence. I was sitting gripped to my attention on this edge of my seat through the whole sequence in that movie. It's just pure old school Hollywood spectacle, and it was done so well, and I just loved every minute of it. I really loved that sequence. You could tell George Lucas really wanted that kind of sequence for some time and really poured his heart and soul into that sequence, and it really shows on the film. But yeah, I really, really do enjoy that sequence. That's my personal opinion, though. Um, and that's really really where I stand with the movie at this point. Honestly, I think it's great that the movie is now, seen in the way that is what it is basically, and it's something that innovated Hollywood. Honestly, special effects were honestly just thrown through the roof when that movie came out, because look at what we do with CGI now with motion capture and things like that. No movie had ever done anything like that before. No movie had ever put that much CGI shots in a movie before, and George Lucas took the chance and did it, and he's basically changed the landscape of filmmaking, and it's made CGI and just effects in movies altogether look so much better now, in my opinion. And that's something you have to really commend him for. And another really big thing, another very positive takeaway here to end the video off with, is that movie introduced so many new fans and people I've interacted with and just everything to Star Wars. And to me, that is the biggest gift this movie could ever give you, because that brought so many people into Star Wars, and we can sit here and discuss our likes and dislikes and everything else about it. And that to me is awesome. I love it. I love the fact that there are new fans because this movie came out and they felt that connection to it. I wish I felt that strong of a connection to it, but that movie wasn't for me. It's not for a 19-year-old who's cynical with the world. It's for the 8-year-old that went, oh my goodness, that is awesome. That's the way I looked at the original trilogy, and that's the way you have to kind of look at things now. It's really great to see, a fandom trying to come together for because of their love of this movie. Honestly, I just think it's great to see fandom, continue to grow, and I think that's going to continue to grow with the sequel trilogy over time, despite, the negative thing around it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video.